and guidelines and parameters for how you can protect sites, how you can make sites available to the American public. So when you come to a place like this, you're not looking at a National Park Service site, you're looking at a community site that is serving the American public. And that's what the trail system is all about. That's why it's so important that we celebrate the 50th anniversary, because this type of site really does provide all of those opportunities to the American public and to the community and to the county to be able to share that with people, to have families come out, recreate, learn about their history, and to share their history with visitors from out of town, out of county, out of community, out of the country. And I'll speak about that shortly. But, you know, since 1968, there are only 19 National Historic Trails in the system. 19 trails. That's not very many in 50 years. And the reason why is that the bar is very, very high for the creation of National Historic Trails. They have to be nationally significant. They have to contribute something to our national story. And that's what the Camino Real de los Tejas does. It really does provide that essence of understanding the settlement of Texas, the expansion of the Spanish Empire, the expansion of the United States. All these different features of our shared history are exemplified in the Camino Real de los Tejas National Historic Trail. So it went through that evaluation of national significance and of the ability the trail has to share its significance with the public. So when people visit sites on the National Historic Trail, they immediately understand its importance and its national significance. That's what we have right here. We've thanked a lot of people here, and I'm going to suggest that every single person here probably played some role. Even if you're here today for the first time, you're playing a role in the development of the site. But I do want to recognize a couple of people because I know that they played a particularly strong role in the development of the site. The first is my good friend Duke Lyons, who's standing right there. Duke, it was your vision that brought this together along with your community and county people. Thanks so much for everything you've done. You've been a good friend and you continue to be a great supporter for the trail. And it's your vision that really led to this. So thank you so much for that. One of our presenters, Steve Gonzalez. Most of you don't know, but Steve spends weeks here away from family and friends to make sure that this gets done. And it's that kind of dedication to purpose and to mission that really speaks volumes about the value of the trail to individuals and to what it means to your heritage and to our heritage. So thanks so much for everything you've done. I do want to give a shout out, and Steve mentioned another pair of people who have done a wonderful job here. That's Sergio and Melinda Iruegas. They represent a consulting firm, a cultural resource consulting firm, GTI. I always mess that up. I have a natural recall for certain things, and unfortunately it gets in the way of accuracy sometimes. But it was all, they're a consulting firm, so they did some consulting work here as part of our technical assistance to the site. But the amount of work they did out here and the dedication, the time they spent out here went way beyond the terms of a regular contract. Their presence here today just shows again that level of commitment to the story and what it means to individuals to be part of the Lobanillo project. So Sergio and Melinda, thanks so much for everything you've done here. A name we're going to hear over and over again, but I can't help it, I just got to say it. Felix. It was amazing to come out here and be on the trail with you before any of this work was done, and to see what you've done out here since that time. It kind of blows me away. Thanks so much for everything you've done and your dedication. And none of this could have happened without your leadership, and your participation, and your dedication that goes way beyond your regular job. So thank you so much. Let me say a few words about what this site means to me, and I think what it means to all Americans and to Mexicans also. A couple of months ago, I was in Mexico City, and I was in the Zocalo. And for those of you who may have been in the Zocalo before, it's the center of not only Mexico City, but all of Mexican identity. It's palpable when you walk through the streets of Mexico City and you're in the Zocalo, the main plaza in Mexico City. And I was there at the Casa de Moneda, which is the mint in Mexico City. And that is the beginning of the Camino Real. And I got to tell you, when I was standing there, a million people are bustling around me. All I could think of were the swales at Lobanillo. And I'm serious about that, because that is the essence of the story. That's understanding what the importance of this site is. So if you're in Mexico City, if you're in the plaza in Aguascalientes, or in Querétaro, or in Zacatecas, or Durango, or San Luis Potosí, or Saltillo, or you're at the Rio Grande at the crossing at Laredo or Paso de Francia, or in San Ignacio, or if you go to Goliad, or if you go to the missions in San Antonio, you're connected here. And that's the importance of the National Trail. It ties all of these sites, all of these resources together. The heritage is continuous. And that's what's so important about this site, because you can't understand those sites unless you come to Lobanillo. And it goes both ways. And that's the importance of what we've done here, is we're creating that linkage to all of these other sites, all of these communities across 1,200 miles of trail. People that visit those sites need to come to Lobanillo. And that's the door we're opening here, is to provide the American public with an understanding of this shared history that we all have. It's internationally significant. It's not just nationally. It's not so important to the community only. It's not important to Texas only. It's important to all Americans and all Americans beyond our borders. So I want to thank you all for what you've done here and what you're contributing to American history. Thanks so much, everybody.
At this time, we would like to welcome Brad Patterson of the Texas Historical Commission.
Thank you, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everybody. My notes say 1,012 miles, but the Park Service generated sign is going to show me up, because it says 1,030 miles to Mexico City. Probably actually more if you were following, depending on what route you were following. But that's how far we are from the Zocalo in Mexico City. Or maybe it's only 920 miles, according to Google, from Zacatecas, where we would have split off from the other Camino Real that went to Santa Fe and the pueblos north of Santa Fe at roughly the same time in history. But in Zacatecas, this trail veers off and comes in this direction. And we got the better trail, just don't tell folks over there. Google says it's 15 hours of driving on a route that is amazingly similar to the historic Camino Real route. 13 days of walking. Now that doesn't sound too bad. Heck, I could probably do 13 days of walking until you realize that Google means walking continuously 24 hours a day. So I'm not sure I'm going to do that. Let alone thinking about the ruts and the mud and the carts and everything you're carrying and the slowest person in the group holding you back. The rivers you have to cross. Somebody here smarter than me can probably tell us how long it would have actually taken. I know that it would have been measured in months and weeks instead of days or hours. As I mentioned, Google gives you a driving route that's amazingly similar to the historic Camino Real, or at least one of the routes of the trail. And it's not a coincidence, because the Spanish and virtually everybody else on the continent would have adopted what were American Indian trails, and they probably adopted what were wildlife trails. And so we continue that tradition and pick up on that, and that's why we're right here, a stone's throw from Highway 21, which thankfully has no traffic on it because we blocked it with all the cars, I guess. But the Camino Real provides a direct and tangible connection to our past. Perhaps underappreciated at the moment, but it's a connection of national significance, and as Aaron says, really international significance with a number of different countries and communities. Many of the people here know the significance and the history of the trail, the trail and the swale, probably far better than me. I can tell you it's one of the best locations along the trail to experience the place and experience the trail. To actually stand in the same place where generations have walked and to see a view that's probably an awful lot like what they had. When you're among the swales, you're fully enveloped in the history and in the results of more than 300 years of travel and journeys. As we stand among the tall trees, the setting is also a reminder of how long and varied the Camino is. The landscape here is so different than what we now know of as South Texas and in Mexico and in the mountains. All of the places on the journey, whether you're coming from Mexico City or you were headed to Mexico City, the variations of this landscape are tremendous. I can't imagine making this journey on so many different levels, but at least here you had swales that were created to lead you. You had a path for this short period. In other places, I can't fathom how you do that without getting lost. We don't know yet the full story of this place. We know it's special, but we don't know if anything yet significant happened right here. We know that things fell off of carts. We know people may have rested in the immediate vicinity of the swales, but we still don't know what the true story is. And the act of protecting this place will allow us in the future to figure out that story. But the reality is the journey is the story. And to stand here among the swales and be able to understand and see that, archaeologists and maybe even historians will take me someplace and they'll point to a pile of rocks and they'll make something up about what that is. And I take them, they're not really making it up, it just sort of seems that way. But here, when you get in there, you can stand there, you can see. And at first you might say, oh, it's just a drainage ditch. A really deep drainage ditch, but a drainage ditch. And then you realize there's 6 other swales that all parallel. That's not drainage, that's not natural. This is a place where you can see the generations that have come before. And that's the impact of these swales. So it's an honor to be here today on behalf of the Texas Historical Commission to help open this significant place to the public. Thanks to the foresight and hard work of Stephen, the association, Sabine County, with notable contributions from Aaron and his team and the colleagues of the National Park Service. A special shout out to Sabine County Historical Commission, to Weldon, to Felix, and to Duke over in San Augustine, who helped really make this all happen. I'd like to also recognize our colleagues at TxDOT, both in Austin and in the districts along the way. Without their cooperation, we can't mark the route that you see today anywhere along it. And their cooperation allows that to happen, so we're able to tell the public and show the public that there's something here, not just at Lobanillo Swales, but all the other places along the way and on the journey, whatever segment of it that you happen to be taking, or if you're actually trying to take the entire journey. I'd also like to acknowledge former board member Joy Graham, who we lost a few weeks ago. Although the site isn't in her beloved Milam County, I know she would have proudly been standing here with us today to celebrate the preservation of this special place. Judge Melton, consider yourself lucky, because Joy probably would have been working to annex this site into Milam County. And she could be persistent about the history she cared about, and the trail was definitely one of those things that was near and dear to her heart. So Joy's dedication to the trail and to the association will be missed, but it is a big part of what gets us here today. Not only preserving, but opening these swales is a highly notable accomplishment of the nonprofit association, an organization that has come a long way in the past 10 or 11 years. When the opportunity presented itself, the leadership and board of the association pivoted from just promoting and recognizing the trail to actually protecting it. In a few short years, they've acquired the site, consulted with the neighboring landowners to get their cooperation, and to actually figure out where the boundaries are of what they acquired. And it's notable because, as Aaron pointed out, in the National Trail System, the National Park Service is legally prohibited from acquiring property so that people don't have to worry about that threat, good, bad, or otherwise. Representing the state, we can't be nimble enough. This was a tax sale situation. we can acquire property, but we can't be nimble enough to try to acquire something like this under the situation. So when a private entity like the association steps forward and takes that, it's an extremely important element. And with the county's cooperation, this is a major significant accomplishment. Along the way, they carefully consulted with professional archaeologists before disturbing the ground or even really figuring out what to do with this site at all. They worked with our agency and closely with the Park Service to make sure they did the right thing. And thanks to the association, the swales are listed on the National Register of Historic Places to recognize their importance. And just as critically, the swales have been designated as a state antiquities landmark at the request of the association, which is where we're able to really protect this property. Between the ownership and between that state designation, we should be able to protect this place for generations to come. So the association, now the owner, takes on responsibilities for ongoing maintenance and stewardship of this site. And so they're just starting their journey here, despite this major accomplishment. Having the site available to the public complements the story we in the community are able to tell at Mission Dolores State Historic Site just down the road, just down the Camino in St. Augustine. This site has historic significance, but it also has economic significance. Travel and tourism in Texas is a $69 billion a year industry. It has a major, major impact on our economy, as it does across the border in Louisiana as well. We know in Texas that about 10.5% of travelers, pretty conservatively, are heritage travelers that go and seek out special places like Lobanillo Swales. And so while this site is not probably going to have busloads and busloads of travelers and tourists, at least not maybe this year, it really helps fill in the gaps. And we're getting to the point with the signs along the trail, with the special places like this, the ones the judge mentioned just down the road elsewhere in Sabine County. We're starting to get a critical mass where people can really understand that there's something here and they can seek it out and they can come and have a great visitor experience despite it being a very small but extremely important location. So as we like to say at the Texas Historical Commission, congratulations to everyone for preserving this real place so we can continue to tell the real stories of our heritage for a long time to come. Such a powerful and meaningful site that we're able to open today. And thank you for saving it, and thank you for having me here today. Congratulations.